Welcome. It's next week tonight, the show that keeps you a week ahead of the competition. So while everyone else is going into week 5, you know the drill by now. Here at next week tonight, we are headed into week 6. Let's go. Welcome to next week tonight. That's right. So if you don't know, welcome to next week tonight. I'm your host, Joshua, here with Fusion Fantasy Football. And you're either listening to the podcast or you're watching the YouTube. And you can find, I will be hitting all the main points right off the bat here and putting that out in a little short podcast version. And then, of course, there's the full version where I'm going to go over everything. And you on the YouTube, you're going to see me do that. And then I'm going to go back into it in detail, doing it all at once here. So let's get into it. Like I said, if you're new here, next week tonight, this is what we do, guys. While everyone else is thinking about week 5, talking about their streamers, who they should be picking up, talking about back on Tuesday and Wednesday, right? Waivers, and everyone's all worried about what should I bid, and who they're reacting to the week's games. Here at next week tonight, we try to be pre-active. We try to be ahead of the game, predict what happens in the coming weeks, and then say, okay, how are we going to react to that? But let's do it now instead of waiting until it happens and reacting along with everybody else. So who can we pick up before week 5 that everyone else is going to want to pick up on Tuesday night, Wednesday next week? Who can we pick up to stream for next week that everyone is going to want to pick up and have in their lineups next week, but you are going to have them already? So that's the idea of this show. Right now, hey, week 6, this is the first week with bye weeks. So be aware of that. We will get into it in a moment. So let's jump right into it. Week 6 pickups, ads. These are players that you need to have on your radar. Go look for them. Wan'Dale Robinson of the Giants, Van Jefferson of the Rams, Daniel Bellinger on the Giants, and Jacoby Myers has ended up on some waiver wires. I've seen him where he shouldn't be. So go look for him. Guys, we already said Kadarius Toney, you can drop him. Drops. These are the drops. Kenny Golladay, you can drop. AJ Green, you can drop. Rondale Moore, you can drop, right? Trades. The downside of doing this quick blitz, guys, is I'm giving away some of the surprises. So, but hopefully you want to come back and hear the full explanation. You want to trade for Dallas Goedert and Drake London. These are great players in great positions, underwhelming, but they look to do even better than what they've done as the season progresses. And kind of in a dynasty move here, trading away Romeo Doubs. That'll be interesting. The streamers for week 6, not a lot of options. The best quarterback opponents, most of them are on the bye. So Daniel Jones is a great one, though. He's putting up points. He looks like he's going to even play this week, week 5. So he should be good to go by week 6. Eno Benjamin, I forgot. I actually already had used him last week too, but I'm going to keep going back to this because I think it's going to hit. We'll dig into that. KJ Osborne for wide receivers. Minnesota at Miami. Richie James, Giants again. Baltimore, you could pair him up with Daniel Jones. In tight ends, you got Will Dissly, just keeps catching touchdowns, and Harrison Bryant of the Browns. And then the Bengals are playing the Saints, and that's, I think, a pretty decent and attainable defense that's out there. Okay, so that's it for the Blitz, guys. Hope you stick around for the whole show. If you're here on the YouTube, you hopefully have seen enough to keep you interested. We're going to click back. For the rest of you guys who are out of here, thank you for listening, even if it was short. And I'll catch you next time. Go get those guys. All right. For the rest of us, all right, we're going to go back and we're going to dig into these now that you got a taste of it. So Wan'Dale Robinson easily is going to be the Giants' wide receiver one as soon as he returns. Uh, there was a whole report about Kadarius Toney today, beyond just him being, declared out again. At the same time, people were saying no, he was in practice and he seemed like he was completely fine. There was a whole article out. I wish I remembered where it was from, but they were talking about how much the Giants organization just doesn't like this guy. He's been in trouble, not putting in the work, not studying. It just all across the board, which is everything we heard about him as a rookie in college too. And you had somebody who clearly had the physical talents, and that showed through finally when he was a senior, playing next to Kyle Pitts. But man, a lot of red flags were out there if you were paying attention. And hey, follow Fusion Fantasy Football in the off season. I do all the rookie evaluations, definitely from more of a data perspective. But even for him, I mean, it's hard to quantify the character questions, but there were a lot. And sometimes that gets overplayed, but it's pretty obvious to tell when it's being overplayed. In this case, the stories, the stuff that was going on, like we're talking just leaving practice. I mean, even in camp after he was drafted, he would just something about his shoes weren't right, so he just left. Like it's just weird stuff. All right. Anyway, the Rams, the Allen Robinson experiment, it does not seem to be working very well. He seems to get out off the line okay and is open for a bit, but then there's not much else down the field. And if you can get him the ball, he just catches it and falls over. It's like every single catch is a jump ball or a toe drag. There's no catch and runs. Van Jefferson has been injured this whole time. That's where he's been, in case you've been wondering. He's been injured. He's been on the IR. So he's coming off now after 4 weeks. I would go look into picking him up, because if Allen Robinson is playing like this, we've seen Van Jefferson play decently. He could take that wide receiver 2 job at some point. He really could. He really could. Hopefully it doesn't hurt Tyler Higbee, but I mean, Tyler Higbee in the meantime is just soaking up all that opportunity. It's fantastic. But speaking of tight ends, Daniel Ballinger on the Giants, an interesting rookie, more of your typical kind of big blocking guy, but he is getting some work in the passing game. And these wide receivers are just keep on either getting injured or whatever's going on with Toney. So you've got, and Galladay, same thing, character, effort, motivation issues, questions. So now we got Shepard, unfortunately, right? He's been out. Robinson, we talked about, he's going to be coming back here soon. In the meantime, you've got Richie James. Galladay is kind of out there. It's ugly. Like literally, did you catch the few snaps of the game last week when Daniel Jones was hurt, and it was like Saquon Barkley? We joked about it. Saquon Barkley is the Giants' offense. No, for a few snaps there, he literally was the Giants' offense. He was playing. He was there under center, and they were just doing the Wildcat. Isn't that what it's called? Something like that. I can't remember. I'm blanking. But yeah, they were doing that. It snaps right to him, and then he was running with it or handing it off. Or there was a few plays that was ridiculous. Saquon Barkley literally is that offense. So I hope you had him. I mean, I could have had him even higher. He was my running back 5. I guess I should have had him even higher, Crazy. Jacoby Myers, Patriot, with his extended injury, he ended up on some waivers in your typical shallow redrafts. So check that out. I think he should be owned. He has ridiculous opportunity share, target share, those kind of things. Even air yards. It's not just like dumping it down 5 yards every time. He's not an Edelman and a Welker. I mean, he does play in the slot, but he's more like, well, I guess I should say more like Edelman. Edelman got downfield more than Welker had. But anyway, he's getting air yards too. It's not just little dunks. It's not Tyler Conklin, right? So go ahead and double check. There's probably someone on your bench who you're holding on to that isn't as good a hold as Jacoby Myers. I'm gonna guess. Again, the drops, the basically these are Giants and Cardinal underperforming wide receivers. Now look, Rondale Moore is on the bottom of this list. He actually did some stuff the other day. I'm just saying, if you're him versus someone good like Wandale, that's out there, I would rather have Wandale Robinson than Rondale Moore, right? Okay. Trades. Okay, so here's a fun one, guys. So I kind of stumbled into this one. I needed tight end in a league, okay? And I always say everything I'm saying here, I don't always get to actually do it because either I don't need to use a streamer or I don't need to trade for that position, and so on. But whenever possible, and I actively go and look to see if there is a case where I can follow through on some of these calls. But it's often not that I'm just trying to do what I said. Oftentimes, I'm telling you what I've already done. And this is a case where I needed a tight end, and I'm looking around, and I put on an offer for Pitts because, like I said last week, go get Pitts. This is the last week you can do it, because if he has a good week, and any time, it's up. Everyone's back in. He's the best future tight end, and the blah 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 blah. Okay, the moment he has a touchdown, everyone's going to be, oh, there it is. He finally broke the seal, and he'll be fine now. You have to strike now. Now, they're likely going into full on, like, hodl, like, full on, this is my life. I'm stuck with Pitts if I die with him, right? There's been some interesting podcasts and comments and discussions about that. But basically, if even the most diehard Pitts person, if they are trying to compete, they have to admit that he's not doing it. And if they can pick up, or they already have somebody like a Conklin or an Everett or a Hurst or somebody that's they can stream, or maybe they got lucky and they have a Higbee, easily you could have had a Higbee. But they're lacking at another position. And they've been benching this other guy like Higbee or Hurst or Conklin and starting Pitts because they have to, which is exactly the problem with, I keep trying to tell you guys, with high opportunity cost tight end. It's the sunk cost problem. And people have this sunk cost in Kyle Pitts, and so you have to start him. And they've been losing. So if you can find that team that has a weakness, has a problem, go ahead and chase it. This was a dynasty league specifically for me. I go get Pitts in every league, but this was a dynasty league, and I'm pretty good across the board on my roster. It's a super flex 2 tight end. This is my best dynasty league. I have been like highest scoring team for at least a couple of years, and I am so far this season as well. Jonathan Taylor and Mixon are my top 2, but I'm having to decide every week who to bench. I mean, you don't want to hear about my team, but this is a good team. Okay, I'm benching like Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, one of the Patriot running backs. Dameon Pierce is on there. This week I have Dameon Pierce in, James Robinson in. I've got a lot of depth, which is the key to your dynasty teams, is depth. And if you just keep that depth, you can slowly start building the talent, and you end up with a team like this. I got lucky at the start of things a little bit because I got Justin Herbert for super cheap, right? And then he hit as a rookie, so that was probably the biggest thing that helped my team. And then I was able to trade for Jonathan Taylor. But anyway, point is, my tight ends though, not great. I was committing it okay with mixture of Gesicki, who was a pretty good for me last year, but I tried selling him, guys. I couldn't. Gesicki, Jonnu Smith, because when I had hoped he was going to be something, um, Logan Thomas, and I can't even remember the other one right now. So, and I picked up Juwan Johnson. I'm playing him when I say to play him, but it's start two, and I'm getting like 7, 6 points. It's a little premium in there. It's rough. I'm doing okay. I'm like 3-1, I believe. But yeah, I really wish. No, I think I'm actually 2-2. I should be more than that. And some of those, at least one of those losses was bad points at tight end, and everyone else was going off, and I just couldn't keep up. So I had to go look for tight ends. So I made that offer to Pitts. Nope, didn't like it. I offered him Mixon because to me, he was a little expendable. I have other running backs I could put in there, and I needed to improve my starting lineup, and I needed to move those points into the tight end slot. One of them, at least. Didn't take it. Wow. But was looking around some other options, looking at the Higbee owner, tried to get something with him, giving him back a guy in a second. But he also had Dallas Goedert. And I've always liked Dallas Goedert. Don't get me wrong. I always thought of him as being a top 6 dynasty tight end. He hasn't done much this year. And I knew that. But at the same time, I knew that he'd been putting up double-digit points. Or close to it, at least in a premium. So I looked into it some more. And I have my stats and everything. And I know that he had decent metrics up there, including like 3rd best yards per team pass attempt, which is one of the stickiest single stats for tight ends. And ultimately, I was left with the realization that he hasn't had any kind of big game. He's just had these solid 6 target, 4 catches for 40 yards or something. And they're not the short yardage catches like Logan Thomas and Conklin are getting. He's actually getting some yards under him. And I realized, okay, so A.J. Brown has had his big game, or a couple of them, but particularly the first week, right? And a couple weeks ago, Devonta Smith had his big breakout game. And then Miles Sanders last week had his big game. So we've had 4 weeks here with somebody going off, except for Dallas Goedert. He's just been plodding along and being fairly productive. All the numbers point to him continuing to do at least that, which I'd be happy with, double digits at least every week. Like I said, I wasn't getting that from both my other guys. And then I can pick the best streamer among my other committee, and we're good. But here's the problem. Not a problem. Here's the news is I think Goddard could be more than that. And I think he's going to be more than that this weekend. They're playing Arizona. They're giving up the 2nd most tight end points. A bunch of other things. I think it's the 7th most per weighted opportunity. This could easily be the week where Dallas Goedert has his big game. Like I said, everybody else has had theirs. It's Goddard's turn. I know that's really, really great analysis there, Josh, but come on. I could just see it setting up perfect for it. So if you do need a good tight end, if you're in a similar situation, I know I went talking about my team a lot. I did that so you could really, I could paint you a picture of the kind of situation where you want to go after Dallas Goedert. You have a contending team. The guys that you have, I mean, I like the Higbees and the Njokus and the Everetts, but I didn't have quite those tier guys. I had the next tier down, right? The Logan Thomases. And so, which I think is a great streamer this week, week 5, but I need more than that. And so going after Goddard became a really good option for me, and he's still fairly young. I mean, for a tight end. So in Dynasty, it had no problem at all. I paid a first for him. I paid a first and sent along Gesicki. I think I sent Gesicki along and got back Donovan Peoples-Jones as well with him. So in a 2 tight end premium, tight ends, that's what it's going to cost to get him. And it's going to be a late first. Also, it's an auction league, so it's extra cash value to that first. So it's not quite. In some ways, that's a good thing for it being a late first for him, because he can put all his money in towards one player and get the who would normally be the 101. But at the same time, for me, it's not as big a deal either because, I end up just picking a few players and getting them cheap anyway. So, Goddard, this is I think, going to be your last chance to buy him before he has his big game. So go get Dallas Goddard. All right. Drake London, wide receiver Drake London, Atlanta Falcons, second highest wide receiver target share at 34%. 2 points behind Cooper Kupp at 36. That is incredible, guys. A rookie wide receiver on the team with the tight end that's supposed to be the next big thing. Guys, Drake London killed Kyle Pitts. Drake London is getting that work. And it's good end zone, red zone work as well. End zone targets. The problem is everything's there except the volume. He had a big game and he's had some decent games, but he also had a bad game last week. And that's going to happen. Well, everyone had a bad game. Mariota was terrible. Mariota's also kept him in some games. So the question is, can this situation improve? Yeah, it can. Either they can just together improve with Mariota. They could also give Desmond Ridder a shot. And I don't think that would be a bad thing. He's got a nice big arm. I think he's going to throw it to Drake London too. So I don't think it can get much worse. Even on bad teams, a good wide receiver one on a team is going to have a good game every now and then. So I like Drake London. From everything I'm seeing, he's getting the opportunity far more and above than any of the other guys also on bad teams. So if you're going to get a guy on a bad team, you might as well be getting the guy on the bad team who's getting literally a third of the offensive, third of the targets. Okay. You might as well get that guy on that bad team. So that's it for the Falcons in London. So go get him. That's, again, any kind of improvement. People are already catching on. And this is going to be difficult in Dynasty, but in redraft, you can still get him. I traded Jamal Williams and Tyler Algier for Drake London and Jared Goff. I kind of needed... I had Marcus Mariota, and before that I had Dak Prescott. So I kind of needed a quarterback, and unfortunately people in this league like to stash additional quarterbacks, which is really annoying in 1 QB leagues, but they do. So options were limited. Mariota had been doing okay for me, but I upgraded it with Goff, and I don't know if the guy thought my main target was Goff or not. Really, I wanted Drake London. So, all right, trading away. This one's a little nuanced. And this, again, more of a dynasty take. So, I like to think of players in dynasty when it comes to perceived value in terms of potential. Okay. So, to me, a player peaks in value as a young player in Dynasty when they've shown enough that everyone's getting excited for them and everyone can envision more for them, an even higher potential result. And everyone gets excited. And to me, those are the moments you want to sell unless you have reason truly to believe that they will reach that potential. I'm not sure Romeo Doubs is going to reach that potential that people are starting to set up for him. He's a good player, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. But, I don't think he's Devonta Adams. Also, if he's not contributing to you winning this season, This is what I'm saying. If he's not contributing to helping you win this season right now, go ahead and trade him for something that will. Because he's not going to help you win, unless you're just thin and you need him. But he is not going to be the guy to help you win, and he's not going to, in the future years, be the wide receiver one on the team that's going to be really productive for another like 2 seasons. Just picture Romeo Doubs with Jordan Love next year. The moment you picture that, his value deflates. So that's what I'm saying. Cash out right now. It's peak potential season. People are excited about it. People are envisioning things for him. If you can cash out at an early second level in Dynasty, do it. You've already won. And I'm not the guy who says, well, as soon as an asset has appreciated, you should sell and cash in. Like I said, if you can actually benefit from his points, that's the actual purpose and point of playing Dynasty football, not accruing value. If you can actually play him and get points and get wins, okay, great. But if you're not, then he's just sitting as a reserve on your bench. Don't incubate him. Sell him now. He's heated up. He's hot. Someone's thinking he's going to hatch now. Sell him to them. Get something that you can be useful, that you will play, right? Like a Tyler Lockett or something like that, plus a pick. But don't just sit on him, and then he's going to hit that point on the potential where all we have to see is a little bit more, and it's not what we thought it was going to be, and that potential is headed down the wrong way, and then suddenly you're not able to get the same return in value for him. Okay, so that's it. Hope it was nuanced enough that you could follow. Streamers for week 6, we got Daniel Jones. I love this one. Daniel Jones likes running around. Hopefully he's got Wandale back at that point. Yeah, because he needs help. He needs help. But Daniel Jones runs way more than people think. Hopefully with his ankle, I'm a little worried about him this week with that ankle because a lot of his value is tied up in that running. He's the poor man Josh Allen, right? He gets a bad rap. I think he's better than a lot of these other guys that we sometimes tie him into. He's better than a Baker Mayfield. Definitely better than Darnold. Zach Wilson, we'll see. Like he's in that area where, yeah, he can do some stuff, especially for fantasy at least. I know the problem is real football, real NFL. But for Dynasty, for fantasy football, he gets points. He has a surprising floor with his running. Runs more than you think he does. Go look it up. I'm going to pull up and interrupt right now. But that's that. Go ahead, playing the Ravens. Big game. So week 6 running backs. Eno Benjamin, Arizona playing at Seattle. Again, the Seahawks giving up running back points. And another thing on here, the Cardinals actually have the 12th highest target share to their running backs as a whole. Now, James Conner is obviously the primary one, but Benjamin's not too far behind in targets. And James Conner is just not being very good right now. Like, he's just not. And so, for whatever reason that is, if he gets pulled back a little bit, Benjamin is, I think, the next guy up. We've seen they also show a willingness to use him in the receiving game as a target. I'm not sure they were not doing that for Darrell Williams even when he's healthy. Is the next guy for that role at least. KJ Osborne for wide receivers, Minnesota at Miami. I think this is a high scoring total. Miami has some pretty decent secondary, some corners. So I could easily see them really trying to stop Jefferson. Osborne gets the leftovers. It might be Thielen too, but you can't pick up Thielen probably. So Osborne's probably out there. and he's had his spike games in the past. And yes, it is unpredictable and it's frustrating, but this is the kind of situation where you got to do something. You don't have much choice, and at least you're giving yourself a shot with KJ Osborne of a big game. And again, Richie James, New York Giants, we were just talking about him. You compare him with Daniel Jones. If Wan'Dale Robinson is out there, obviously by week 6, hopefully he's around, and I would start him instead of Richie. But if Wan'Dale's still out, then Richie is the guy I would roll with. All right, and tight ends. So Will Dissly, I apologize. He should have been on here because he just catches a touchdown every week and gets you some basic floor points. But really, though, Arizona is giving up the second most tight end points. So I think that this is a great spot for Dissly to just keep doing what he's been doing. And then Harrison Bryant is getting a ridiculously underreported amount of work. I mean, he's got like a 10, no, not 10, like a 14% target share. I mean, he's actually getting involved quite a bit. He just doesn't have a tight end. I mean, a touchdown. He is a tight end. So the Patriots, meantime, are giving up the second most per weighted opportunity, only 20th in total. But that's because they're limiting the volume. So the total points is obviously a counting stat. But I did something where I took I weighted those attempts on by the offense, targets, really it's receptions, and then I kind of had to back calculate for targets, but it's close enough. It gets the idea through of which team is per play efficiency. How good are they stopping? And the Patriots second most per a weighted opportunity, a weighted attempt, and instead of 20th in total counting stats, right? There's a big difference. So the Patriots are clearly slowing things down. I'm not sure they're going to be able to against the Giants. Then again, they have Bailey Zappi starting, but in 2 weeks, in week 6, I'm curious if that's going to change. So anyway, the Harrison Bryant, I know we all love Njoku right now. I love Njoku, but Bryant is getting a surprising amount of work, and I could see him getting the tight end, the touchdown. Like I said, 5 touchdowns allowed by the Patriots right now, 2 tight ends. That is highest in the league. That's that. And that's why the opportunity per an opportunity is so high, is because even though they're not getting a ton of work, they are scoring those touchdowns. And so there is value to be had there. And on defense, Bengals playing the Saints. Saints and Winston, not sure if he's going to be back in week 5. It's looking hopeful. But if it's looking hopeful in week 5, I think he'll be back week 6 for this game. And he's always good. That offense, it's always good for a shot at some turnovers and sacks and everything. So the Bengals defense isn't too bad either. So I think they can slow them down at least. You're not going to suffer from the points terribly. And all you need is a couple extra bonus points. Hopefully your scoring is like mine. And you get points for the sacks too. So, all right. That's it for the week 6. Let's look at last week really quick. The first guy I said, and I tweeted about this, that I hate to, and it's a shame I can't victory lap about, because in case you didn't catch it, right? Cordell Patterson, injury on IR, 4 weeks minimum. I can't victory lap that Cordell Patterson got injured, but I can victory lap the fact I told you to pick up Tyler Algier last week, specifically because Patterson's usage is crazy. It can't continue or it'll end badly. That's what it says on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. For you who are listening, that's what it said on last week's slide. I said, if they keep using him like this, he is at a higher risk of injury. And we've seen, I'm not injury prone, but he is an older running back. We saw what happened when he got overused and worn down last year It increases risk of injury. Okay? I am allowed to say that. And I'm allowed to tell you that you should have had Tyler Algier already. Okay? Noah Brown, that was okay. Alec Pierce actually showed up some of the game here tonight, Thursday night. And someone should have been added and should still be added. And then Richie James is there again, like we said. All right, so we've got David Montgomery is who I was saying you should be trading for, and I still stand by that one. James Robinson, a lot of smart people are saying to trade away. They're citing things like how a lot of high percentage of plays go for 3 yards or less. Okay, that's offensive line issue too. They're trying to draw connections with him and Akers, who also have that issue. Then you have others like other stats that people are pointing to, such as yards after contact. There's a lot of things that you can look at that say James Robinson isn't good, but it's always been that way. There's a lot of things you can look at that say James Robinson is putting up yards with his opportunities, and that's that. And you may not like how he's doing it, but he is doing it, okay? Cortland Sutton, at the time, and maybe even still no touchdown, but clearly getting the work, clearly the number one in that offense. It's not Judy. People are worried about Judy. No, sorry, it's not. Judy can have some good games, but he's not Sutton. He's not the top guy. And it wasn't pretty on Thursday night football here, but his usage was still there, even if the results weren't that good. We talked about trading Khalil Herbert high, right? Again, similar idea with the Dubs thing. If you're using him, if you're starting him, your starting lineup points come first. But if you don't, cash out for something that you can use now and in the future. Whereas Khalil Herbert, Montgomery's coming back. Okay. Maybe in week 5, but probably definitely by week 6. All right. Wide receiver Devin Duvernay. I stand by this one, even though Bateman's injured, might probably be back week 6 or 7. Ankle sprain of some kind. I don't think it's a high ankle, but it's not necessarily low either. So Devin Duvernay, you could say, well, now he's going to be getting more points. And like I always say, if you can start him, if he's benefiting you, helping you win, then keep him, right? But consider the fact that he is maybe a short-term play, because yes, he's going to get some great opportunity now in the short term, but after a while, Bateman will be back. So if you can sell him high now, so I stand by that. So Tyler Conklin, I was encouraged to see Zach Wilson still used him. It actually took a little while. At first, he wasn't. So I am encouraged that Conklin will continue to be what he's been. Not as much total offense volume, though, right? The pass attempts went down from the 50 down to like 36 or something like that. So still plenty there, but it wasn't the crazy total pass attempts that Flacco was getting. And then that just inflates the number Conklin gets, right? So maybe not quite as much like we thought, but also not doom and gloom. It's done. I think he's still going to be used. And like I said, running back Joe Mixon, sell him, trade him away. I tried. Remember, I said I didn't try trading for James Robinson because I have James Robinson where I have Joe Mixon, but I did try and get Pitts, who was also a trade for the week before that. Carson Wentz was our week 5 streamer. So these guys are week 5 streamers. If you need somebody this week and you didn't remember, you can just pretend this is like everyone else is doing a show for right now about who you can stream this weekend. Carson Wentz against the Titans. Like I thought he might be getting dropped here and there. Seems like his ownership has gone down, so he might be available. If he's not, Ryan Tannehill is there. McKenzie. And guys, I listen to shows talking about exactly what I'm doing here. Of course, almost always a week later. There's some other shows out there who do a little bit of what I do with the ads and everything like that. Um, there's waiver sniping, I think, with Kyle August. Maybe it's not Kyle. I'm sorry. I will have to link that sometimes on one of these shows because he does do good work. I like his show, but he does it like Saturday night. Maybe Saturday night if you're a patron. Otherwise, you may not get it till Sunday morning. Right. So it's interesting. It's useful. It's the same thing. I I still feel like I get this out a little bit earlier, and I have a little bit of a wider shot where we do the trades and everything like that. It's not just guys to pick up for this week, and it's not just guys to pick up before they're popular next week, which we obviously do that as well. But McKenzie is one that I've heard on all kinds of the shows, be it, and I've talked about J.J. Zacharysen's before. He has a number of different shows. The 15 transactions is basically what I'm trying to with my ads and drops and trades. I'm trying to pick players. They're going to be in his 15 transactions the next week. If I can predict that, then I've done my job. And hopefully the players actually work out as well. But in the meantime, I've told you who you can get that everyone else is going to want ahead of time. That's the idea. He also has some other shows, and one of those is like sleepers and deep, what I used to call deep starts, which are people you can just pick up and put in when you need to. And you're going to need it when it comes to bye weeks. And Isaiah McKenzie is one that he was talking about. But do also know about, I go through all of this to say, to give JJ Zacharysen credit, because if McKenzie is out in week 5, Khalif Shakir is your backup. There you go. And like I said, Benjamin, yeah, I still like this take. I still like this. I see Connor being inefficient, and they're going to try leaning on in the receiving at least. And the tight ends, Njoku, Juwan, Johnson, and if you're really desperate, deep league, Noah Gray is worth a shot. Jacksonville defense for week 5 is the other one. And I forgot, I was supposed to move this slide up towards the beginning because it's a week 6 show and we were doing week 6 stuff. But these are the teams on bye for week 6. Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, Las Vegas Raiders, Tennessee Titans. So be aware you need to replace those players. So if you're looking at, and I'm going to have to get in the habit of doing this. I've done this past years when we have the bye weeks. I'm going to make sure I have a page in here where I highlight some of the players that are very likely you're going to be needing to replace. And that helps me have a better sense of which positions I need to focus my streaming options on. So there you go. Lions, Texans, Raiders, Titans. Those are the guys you got to look out for. So Lions, you got a bunch of players. Hawkinson, Amon-Ra's been hurt. That's good. He gets week off. Hopefully we'll have him coming back in week 7. But Goff has been good. So there's a bunch of people there. Even the Texans, Dameon Pierce has been nice. Brendan Cook. Hopefully he didn't have to start Davis Mills. And the Raiders, a whole bunch of guys between Jacobs and Waller. Renfro's been hurt a little bit, but Mac Hollins is an option there. And then last, of course, Devonta Adams. And the Titans, you got Henry. Yeah. Okay. That's it, guys. Coming in under the 45 for the total. I'm pretty happy with that. What was this? Week 4 show. Oh, yeah. So week 4, I was supposed to take out. So these were all the same things I was talking about doing. I was already telling you get Algieri even the week before that. White started getting more work in Tampa Bay. But mostly I wanted to skip ahead to the week 4 streamers who we actually saw how they performed, right? Now, Jameis Winston was out, and so that's a scratch. In fact, I think the other New Orleans ones should just also have been a scratch there, hopefully for you. There's at least one other one here. But Jacoby Brissett came through with 15.9 points for you, not terrible. And then the running back options, it didn't really amount to much. Sony Michel is still the backup, but he's just not getting much. Jalen Warren only 3.2 points. Kenny Walker only 3.4. Sony Michel 5.7. So none of these really hit. Sorry, guys. Week 4 wide receivers, streamers. Michael Gallup, I said, okay, and they're 10.4. I think he got a touchdown. But the other one, Ashton Doolin, I had 3.8 points. Didn't really hit. And I think he just got injured in this game, but he would have been locked, so you don't have to worry about him. Tight ends, Juwan Johnson 6.3 points. But again, are you going to hold that against me? No. Jameis Winston probably should have gone another way already. And then Hayden Hurst is really who you should have had in there. And he had already scored the week before, or earlier in the week, 13.2 points for Hayden Hurst. And the Colts defense only got 6 points. So not terrible, but we shoot for like 10, but didn't get there. All right. That's it, guys. Still under 45. Thank you for sticking around for the entire show. If you want to just reference a text version of these things and look down through a list, you can go to the website, fusionffb.com. It's going to be there in article form. And then, of course, there's the audio versions if you just want to do the podcast. And then you have the video you can look through, and I'll see my pretty slides and get that information too, both visually and audibly on the YouTube. So thanks, guys, for joining me. Have some fun in week 5. I really think if you've been following what I've been talking about, all the takes coming into the season here at Fusion Fantasy Football, I think you're having a successful year. I was telling the guys in the Fusion chat just earlier today that they need to remind me of what my bad takes were and take me down a notch, because I was getting a little bit full of myself, because I was reading a whole Twitter thread about where people were sharing their bad takes for the season. And it was the, Najee Harris. And I'm like, oh, well, no, not me. Oh, it was Kyle Pitts. No, not me. Yeah, I'm saying trade for him now, but I'm talking about drafting him. I didn't have teams with him. No, okay, not me. They were listing off all these things that were big mistakes, and they were most things that I saw coming and was avoiding. I would say, honestly, my biggest miss has been maybe a couple of the running backs that are doing well, like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Josh Jacobs. How that'll go for the entire season, I don't know. Maybe it won't look like I was that wrong come week 10. But they've had some good weeks. And so, in the meantime, I wasn't that high on them. So, that might be the one that I have to cling on to. But as a whole, if you've been following our process, you have a lot of players that have been doing really well. Like Saquon Barkley we talked about, and the Higbees and things like that. So hopefully you were able to fill in with some good running backs and wide receivers in the meantime. And hopefully you're doing pretty well. I managed to go 12-1 in my head-to-heads last week. Only one I lost was, of course, my home money league that I commissioned. Can't win that. No, of course you can't. So I just bring that up because I say what I do and I do what I say. So you've been hearing me talk about players. Those are the players I have on my teams. Cooper Kupp, guys, wide receiver 1. I know some of you don't really think my reasons were great, but I have my reasoning. I have a mixture of, it's a little bit of narrative, but there was also historical examples, and just reading the situation with the quarterback and the offense. And yeah, to me, it was obvious Cooper Kupp is going into his golden era. He's going into what we had for Devonta Adams. We had a span of 4 seasons where 3 of those he was putting up 21, 25, 22 point per game seasons. There was one kind of ugly one mixed in there. He had injuries. So that was Adams' golden era, right? 3-4 years where he is locked in, challenging for the wide receiver 1 overall. I think he fell behind Michael Thomas the 1 year. The points he had would have been. We talk about, I don't think any wide receiver hasn't repeated. For as far as I'm considered, Adams repeated, right? Just because Michael Thomas scored a little bit more and technically took the 1 from him, it took a lot to do that, right? In the meantime, like I said, Adams is putting up 340-ish points. I think that's what Cooper Kupp is going into, and it's hard to see it because we're in the middle of it. It's right on top of us, and we don't have that perspective. And I'm trying to give you that perspective that you can see that this is how it goes for wide receiver ones. And yes, we saw Justin Jefferson doing a lot, but none of the arguments for Cooper Kupp's regression, where he had like 80 to 100 points to regress and still be possibly the wide receiver 1. None of the arguments for counting a regression against him, none of those arguments were better than the bad arguments for why Justin Jefferson was going to improve on what he had done already with the same quarterback, with a new coaching system, and with statistically not much room to improve. Same thing, or maybe for you it wasn't Justin Jefferson, maybe it was Jamar Chase. But either way, the point being, none of the arguments to move those guys over Kupp because we're stronger than the negatives from his regression. He still should have been the 1. And I know it sounds like it's picky to be talking about, there was 3 of them up at the top, and as long as you got one of them. No, if you had Kupp, it's a big difference. It's a big difference. Ask the people who have Jamar Chase. Even I have Justin Jefferson. Some of these weeks have been real painful. All right, that's the one I'm 2-2. Okay. Meanwhile, Cooper Kupp, 20 points. Just lock it in, right? The target share, 36%. Ridiculous. So that's what I'm trying to say, guys. He's got the quarterback. He's got the situation. He's got the history. I mean, his first 3 career years, he was actually even better than Davante Adams' first 3 career years. So when Adams broke out that 5th year, and he didn't break out, it wasn't a peak, it was a level up, and then he stayed up at that level. That's what I saw coming for Cooper Kupp. That this kind of year, 440-ish points, right? Yeah, that's probably the peak, but he leveled up. He's going to be up there from now on. He was already a wide receiver 1, anywhere from the 10 to 5 range in the past, per game at least. It didn't take much more. He leveled up. Now he's going to be wide receiver 1 contention for the next 2 years. So that's my take on Kupp. It's been my take on Kupp. Hopefully you had him as many places as I did. I literally have him on half my teams. So that's that. So guys, like I said, hope you're having a good season. A couple of you have been DMing me. Hopefully you're listening or watching the show as well. I love it, guys. Hope I've been able to be helpful. But for those of you who haven't, you can too. On Twitter, @FusionFFB. Give it a follow there. It is on the screen. And FusionFFB.com for the written form of this, as well as link to the video and the podcast. Thanks, guys, for joining me. See you next time. Have fun in week 5.